Hey guys, and welcome back. My name's Kris. I'm a General Practitioner registrar living and working in Australia, and today I'm going to be talking to you about adrenal fatigue. Please note this is the third video I've filmed today, so if I look the same as the last video or you think, was this filmed on the same day? The answer is yes, because I work full-time and study full-time. I don't have a lot of time to film and edit, so I often do it in batches, but you're not here to hear about that. You're here to hear about adrenal fatigue. So let's jump right into it. First and foremost, adrenal fatigue is not a medical diagnosis. Let's just get that out of the way right now. If your doctor has told you that you have adrenal fatigue, I suggest that you go and see a new doctor. I admit that I don't know everything and that science doesn't know everything, and I'm very amenable to listening to evidence and reading the literature and changing my mind based on fact. However, it has been proven time and time again, which I will show you today, that adrenal fatigue is not a diagnosis. As always guys, just remember that whilst I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and anything I say is meant to be educational and for entertainment purposes only. If you have any questions about your personal health, please do ask your own practitioner. And please know that I am not here to bash anyone. I'm not here to bash naturopaths or chiropractors or osteopaths or anyone who tells you that you might have adrenal fatigue. I'm just here to tell you the evidence and to give you advice as to where to go from here. Now that that's out the way, let's talk about adrenal fatigue syndrome. To talk about adrenal fatigue, we need to talk about what the adrenals actually are. So yep, as always guys, let's go back into the science and to what we actually do know about certain things. And yes, I am going to be talking about hormones today. And I'm going to be telling you why my hormones are out of balance or out of whack is not actually something that happens very often. Again, we're going to get there. See, there's a whole subspecialty of medicine dedicated to this, and it's called endocrinology. I actually had a look to see how long it takes for a naturopath to get their qualifications. Again, really not bashing naturopaths here. It's just that a lot of my patients will work with naturopaths as well, then come to me for further answers, and I have to kind of unteach a lot of things because whereas I work in an evidence-based Western style medicine sort of area, these alternative medical practitioners will not. And so where there is a lot of crossover and a lot of role to be, played for them, there's also a lot of, we disagree sometimes. So I looked into it. Typically in Australia, a naturopath undertakes a 4-year degree, but the contact hours to be considered full-time is only 20 to 24 hours a week. That's not full-time when it comes to medicine, right? So to become a doctor, it's typically a 4 to 6 year degree, and I do have a video about that if you're interested. Then you become an intern, and then a junior officer, and then you sort of look at what you want to do in the future. And often, people will spend 2 years as an unaccredited registrar or a provisional house officer. From there, they get onto the basic training program for internal medicine, which is a 4-year program with several exams. Then they enter the advanced trainee program, which is another 2 years and subspecialized. So for an endocrinologist, obviously, they've chosen endocrinology. When you calculate it, that's 15 years thereabouts of the dedicated study of the human body and its hormones to become an endocrinologist. So you can see why I would trust an endocrinologist more than some naturopaths. And I'm not talking about life experience here, I'm talking about dedicated research, review of the literature, understanding of the pathophysiology. So when I say that I don't trust naturopaths, in this regard anyway, when it comes to adrenal fatigue syndrome, it's because that there is a whole subspecialty of medicine dedicated to this. And it's got a lot more evidence behind it, and it takes a lot longer and a lot more dedication to get there. But that's a rant, and I'm so sorry. I honestly do not mean to offend anyone that sees a naturopath, or if you are a naturopath. Several of my patients are chiropractors and naturopaths, and we get along just fine. But again, that's my personal bias, my personal view on things, and I think I've rambled on long enough. We were talking about the adrenals, right? And the hormones? The adrenal glands are two little glands located on top of both kidneys. They're triangular in shape and they're very, very important in the hormonal balance in the body. Your body is a very finely tuned machine and it likes to maintain what we call homeostasis or balance. Anything that disrupts this will then be recalibrated and rebalanced, I suppose, in the end. And the adrenals, again, play a huge role. We have a very complex cascade of hormones that regulate everything from our temperature to our hunger to our hormones that are implemented or implicated in reproduction and sex to, well, basically everything. The pH of your body is regulated by hormones, your growth, your height, everything. The adrenal gland itself is separated into different zones and each of them have different functions. But the hormones that the adrenal glands produce include cortisol, aldosterone, DHEA, androgenic steroids, which are estrogens or testosterones, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. The truth of the matter is, guys, if you had adrenal fatigue syndrome, you'd probably be on death's door. It's not a real diagnosis. Your body can fatigue, mentally and physically, but your hormonal axis can't. That's just not what we see in science. But let's look together. What do these alternative medical practitioners call adrenal fatigue? So one source states that chronic stress causes significant demands on the neuroendocrine system, which turns into fatigue. Okay, I mean, sure, high levels of stress hormones aren't good for anyone, but your body doesn't burn out like that. They state that when you have chronic or intense stress, you exceed your mental and physical resources, which can disrupt the normal hormone feedback system. They speculate that this is implicated in several diseases such as insomnia, depression, weight gain, diabetes, and so on. I argue those aren't actually diseases. I mean, diabetes is and depression is, but anyway, I digress. I'm just being nitpicky. I don't disagree with a lot of their treatments though. They say that to combat adrenal fatigue, you need to have a wide, varied diet, rich in fresh fruits, vegetables, grains, lean meats, etc. Absolutely, that is exactly what I advocate for. They also say to combat it, you need to get good quality sleep, averaging 6 to 8 hours a day, which, perfect. That is exactly what I tell my patients too. It's the quality over the quantity sometimes that's important. And I need to then look into why your quality of sleep might not be good. Do you have sleep apnea? Do you stop breathing overnight, which is sleep apnea, I suppose? Do you snore? Anyway, I'm digressing. Other treatments they recommend include prioritizing rest, sleep and play, well-being review, graded exercise, nutrition and meditation. That's all solid information and recommendations in my book, for sure. What I then struggle with is the fact that a lot, not all, of these practitioners will then try and sell you something to combat it and help. That's what I struggle with. They obviously have an incentive to tell you you have a disease if they are going to benefit from the sale of their supplement. Yes, I as a practitioner will give you a diagnosis and give you a prescription, but Big Pharma doesn't pay me anything. Do you know the most I've ever gotten from Big Pharma in the last 10 years? A pen and a sandwich. Woo! Everyone go out and buy that drug. To me, it seems that they've put a fancy pseudoscientific label on the very real stress of day-to-day life. You will not improve your symptoms and functionality with supplementation of what they call adaptogens, or, quote-unquote, molecules which modulate cortisol magically in one direction or another, depending on what your level is. That sounds like the HPA axis to me, not some sort of exogenous adaptogen. So is adrenal fatigue real? Am I just sitting here spouting, I don't believe it is, therefore I say it's not? Well, a systematic review from 2016 proved inconclusively that this diagnosis is not founded in science. They looked at over 3,700 articles, all of which looked at cortisol profiling or fatigue as a primary outcome measure, did hormonal tests, and were completed in those without confounding diseases such as Cushing's or Addison's disease. They said it doesn't exist. It doesn't get more clearer than that, friends. I admit, science is ever evolving, and I will happily revoke this video if there is solid evidence in the future. But for right now, in 2020, the diagnosis of adrenal fatigue is rubbish. Now, I did say that I'd loop back into the other hormones and have a quick chat about them, so here I go. I've got a list here again. I could go on for ages and I've got dot points. So, back to the pituitary where we last left off, so we're still in the brain. There is prolactin. Prolact. Lactation, it helps with lactation. It's got other things too, but really it's implemented most in lactation. Growth hormone. It doesn't take a medical degree to figure out that this helps you grow. It acts on three main things: your fat stores, decreasing them as you grow, your bones, helping them elongate and strengthen, and your muscles, increasing the bulk of your muscles and the strength of them. It doesn't actually act on its own. It, via the liver, will activate a hormone called the insulin-like growth factor 1 in children, and adults and teenagers too, but the thing is it peaks in your teenage years and we have very small amounts by the time we end up in like our 60s and 70s. So it doesn't go away completely, but yeah, no, that's why you have a growth spurt when you're, 10 to 15 usually. Stop growing if you're 12 like me. Then we've got thyroid stimulating hormone. As the name implies, it then stimulates the thyroid, which is a gland right here in the neck, which then goes and produces in turn thyroxine and triiodothyronine. T3. I always struggled with this word. Thyroid hormones, mostly thyroxine, will help regulate your body temperature, your muscle strength, your weight, and your mood. There is no real evidence out there about fixing T3 levels. It's mostly thyroxine or T4 because T3 becomes T4. And also there's no evidence out there for reverse T3 or reverse T4 testing or supplementation. But again, that's a little bit off topic. Then there's also FSH and LH. Really important, especially in women, for our cycles. That's the menstrual cycle, mind you, in the formation, release, and maturation of the egg. It also has huge implications in the lining of our uterus. Then, of course, we've got things like estrogen and progesterone and testosterone and adrenaline and noradrenaline. Really, I could do a whole video on all of these, but honestly, guys, the thing with hormones is they change every single hour, day to day, week to week, month to month. My cortisol levels in the morning are not my cortisol levels at midday or at night. My progesterone on day 1, day 21, and day 28 of my cycle will not be the same. My estrogen today and tomorrow will be very different. My thyroid hormone will be different day to day. It's influenced by it so much. That's why, as a general practitioner and a Western style doctor, I suppose, we will not often advocate for hormone testing to make sure that you're balanced, because there's so much more we need to know before we do it. And often we don't like casting a net if we don't think we're going to catch something. We don't like looking for issues if we don't strongly believe they're there. We test for symptoms, we don't test for health, if that makes sense. If you are feeling good, why would I look for something wrong or something to improve? I also read somewhere on a naturopath's website that they don't like it when doctors say that you're within normal range, they want you to be in an optimal range. Well, optimal is different to everyone. I was functioning, again, this is my personal anecdote, but I was functioning pretty fine with an iron level of 6 when normal is 30 to 200 or 130 or whatever it is for women my age. I was functioning fine. Now that I've supplemented, I feel better because I realized I probably wasn't functioning fine. But the thing is, my iron is now 36 and it's great. I feel fine. I don't know why people want to be up in the hundreds. As long as you're within normal range, means that your body is functioning. Isn't that the most important thing? I don't know. I'm obviously biased, So when you ask if your hormones are balanced, the answer is probably yes. Certain diseases do have poor hormone function. Diabetes is poor function of insulin, either the production or the recognition of it in the body. We've already touched on Cushing's and Addison's. Hyper and hypothyroidism are poor production of thyroid hormones. Then there's things like menopause and polycystic ovary disease, which are fluctuations in female hormones like estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Each of these conditions have a really well-established pattern attached to them, which is what we look for. If you are feeling tired, burnt out, can't sleep, can't lose weight, can't gain weight, have a chat with your general practitioner. It may be psychological or physiological stress. It may be low B12, low iron. It may be that you have an underlying autoimmune condition that you didn't know about before. We are the experts in that. We are the experts in pattern recognition and testing. We have to be able to back up every single test we do, hence why Medicare will rebate it. So we only order what is necessary. And yeah, there are crappy doctors out there. I will give you that. Absolutely. There are some that you'll find and some that'll test for everything without evidence. But I'm talking about the good ones. I look at you as a whole person. I don't want to just say, yep, cool, you've got an iron deficiency. I then want to figure out why you've got it. Are you not absorbing it? Are you not having enough intake? Are you losing too much? I also then want to talk about how it affects you. If you feel fine, great, then we can supplement because you've got a deficiency and get you on your way. But if you are then struggling with the psychological stress of being tired and whatnot, I want to be there to support you. That doesn't mean I'm going to write you a script for an antidepressant and kick you out. It means that I will then talk you through things that might help, like mindfulness and meditation, or refer you to someone who is an expert in that field. While I have you in my room, I'll also look at things for preventative measures. If you've not had a smear test or a mammogram or a check of the blood in your stool if you're over 50, if you've not had a skin check or a cardiovascular risk assessment or a diabetes risk assessment, that's my job. I want to prevent disease, not just treat it. If you come to me wanting me to confirm that you have adrenal fatigue syndrome, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to give you that, but I will look into it with you. I hope you found this educational and helpful, guys. Again, I'm not trying to bash anyone, I'm just really passionate about health and about evidence and science. If you found it useful, give me a thumbs up, click subscribe, all that YouTubey stuff. Leave me a comment, leave me general questions. I'm always happy to have a chat and debate. Any articles I've referenced will be linked below. But until next time, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.